Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing The Bear Season 4, and we're nearing the end of our journey. We're on episode 8, titled Green. All right, if you haven't watched this episode yet, go check it out. It's available on Hulu to stream, and then come back and listen to this episode, but this is your spoiler. All right, Sarah, you're going to kick us off with a summary for episode 8.
Everyone keeps going.
The bear's got jokes. That's really how this episode feels, though. Yeah, we'll get into it. So what's your episode title of choice for this 8th episode?
My title is Pace and Space.
That's mine as well.
Really? I thought that you would pick Strangely Lovely as yours.
Yes, that's a good one too. But no, Pace and Space was the choice. Okay, well, let's dive in. Thoughts about this episode. We've got now only 2 more left. This is coming off of a really big, juicy episode with the wedding, Tiff's wedding in the previous episode, in episode 7. So yeah, episode 8. What did you think about this episode?
I mean, I'm sure that you are thrilled for Stinky House and for Sid because she finally makes her choice. I am thrilled that there is someone named Computer who is asking the same questions that I have been asking for episodes and episodes and episodes of how will you pay people. So we are nearing the end of the clock. And so that's where we're going to be for the next couple episodes. Sure, some emotional things are gonna pop off with Carmi visiting his mom. And then final service and kind of the fallout from that, and where are we going from here. So yeah, I feel like this is just kind of sliding into those last 2 episodes, and just kind of showing where all of our crew is at this point in time as they're grappling with the reality of, okay, we only have 17 hours left, and a big chunk of that is going to be prep for service and then we're done. So I think that's setting up what's going to be a really interesting finale as I don't know, as we see how our characters are going to respond to all of those emotions, and who might be like waiting in the wings to be kind of like a wild card that changes everything. You know what I mean? So we'll see where they go in these last 2 episodes, but this definitely feels like, the episode that's setting up what's probably going to be quite emotional. But what did you think? You got what you wanted. So here we are. Stinky House.
Yeah, I got what I wanted, but not how I wanted it. I feel like that whole decision felt a little bit anticlimactic, and maybe that's because it's gonna fall apart soon, and that's why there's not all this feeling and emotion when this moment happens. In general, I think this episode feels very tame. It feels like a stepping stone episode, and I think I was a little bit surprised by how understated this episode is. Maybe this is the moment of respite that we're going to get before shit hits the fan in the next 2. But I don't know. I felt kind of unsatisfied after this episode. I felt hungry. I was wanting more. I did not feel satiated by this episode. And so honestly, the episode title from IMDb is very fitting. Like, everyone keeps going and we're continuing to keep going. And I think that's an interesting choice. So it reminds me a little bit of a lot of what we've been talking about around this season. Really creating that sense of anxiety in these quieter ways, because I think, at the end of the previous episode, we were gearing up for so much. And this one almost feels like a diversion, a calm before the storm. And now I'm really curious to see what happens next. And I think characters still seem to be making choices of growth in smaller ways in this episode compared to the previous episode. They made big leaps of growth. We're seeing characters continue those trajectories of growth for Carmi, for Richie, for Neil, even, and so I feel like the growth could only last for so long before someone's going to take a left turn somewhere. So I'm bracing myself for that a little bit. On the whole, this is not my favorite episode of the season, but perhaps it serves its purpose in the larger whole of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was funny trying to find like a spicy moment from this episode because I feel
Yeah.
like it is all pretty chill. There are some uh, I don't even know that you couldn't even call it like a spicy moment, but there's a lot of like sweet moments throughout this episode as characters are connecting with one another, some really healthy conversations all throughout, some less
Yeah.
healthy conversations, but a lot of it's a pretty chill episode, which
Yeah.
again is an interesting departure from the other seasons because I feel like in the past some of those chill episodes have felt so needed and like a moment of respite that you absolutely needed after something that was chaotic and crazy and you needed that moment to just breathe, and they were always really purposeful. This I don't even think it feels like restful and relaxing. It just feels like we're getting from one episode to another again, which is not bad because we need the story to progress and we need to work our way to the finale. But this definitely feels like okay, characters were here. We need them to get here. We're just going to check in on everybody. Sid's going to make a
Mm-hmm.
decision and on to the next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think there's a way to do what this episode needs to accomplish, maybe with just a little more color, a little bit more saturation, uh, so that we get more of the whiplash. I almost feel like the volume of everything could have been turned up a little bit more. Also feel like we're here for like TV and entertainment, as well. And so as we are on our journey, I would like just every step of the journey to be exciting, but perhaps my thoughts will change as we see where this goes next. I think the conversation between Sugar and Petey feels very like symbolic of what's to come. They talk about just, can we stay in this moment of quiet and calm? And Petey's like, that never happens. And so I feel like there's a lot coming, and so maybe this was very wise, but I do not want a wise, lukewarm episode. I want something to chew on. And I'm not sure I really got it in this one.
And I think that's something interesting about this season because it's been subverting our expectations. And The Bear has set
Yeah.
us up for 3 seasons to expect a certain tone and a certain pace and a certain level of dysfunction and chaos. And it's almost like we've been like trained and primed for it. And so now we're not getting it. And it's this like, wait a second, what show am I watching? Which
Yeah.
in one sense I think is absolutely brilliant because that is like a small microcosm of what these characters are feeling because they
Yeah.
were raised in dysfunction and chaos and now they are seeking peace and growth and all of these things, and that's so uncomfortable when you go from that chaotic
Mm.
state to a peaceful state. um, Unfortunately for us as the viewers, it does make for some slightly less interesting TV. So
Yeah.
I'm like you, I am curious to see what this is setting up.
Hmm.
Because we even thought that the previous episode, the wedding episode, was going to be insane and
Mm.
chaotic and dysfunction. And I thought it was going to be like Fishes 2.0, but it
Yep.
wasn't. And so I'm curious. This is setting up, Carmi and his mom, this interaction that they really haven't talked very much in years. He doesn't remember the last time he was at the house. Like, this
Yeah.
is a big deal, a big setup.
Yeah.
But is the bear going to once again subvert our expectations and give us something sweeter? I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but it is interesting though, like what this season is bringing out in us as viewers. Uh, because I don't know, some of this isn't what I want from the bear. Although I am very excited to see character growth and them being healthy humans. So it's
Yep.
just I don't know. It's a weird, conflicting place to be in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like perhaps because every character is growing, maybe that's also an aspect too. I think in previous seasons, we've seen characters follow opposing trajectories. So the classic one we often refer to is we've seen a really incredible growth from Richie as Carmi is descending into chaos. But so we're kind of having all of our taste buds satiated, to use the bear themed metaphor. We're getting the sweet, the spicy, the bitter all at once. This one's interesting so far because it's seemingly all of the characters are moving towards growth, but are showing signs of doubt, uh, previous patterns coming out again. Like I think the foreboding of the Sydney opening scene is really notable in this episode, which I'm excited to talk about. We see that little moment with Marcus not going to the meetup with his dad at the coffee shop. So it's like episode 7 with the wedding was all warm fuzzies. And this one is almost asking us to really wonder how great that leap forward of growth was, and perhaps tempering those warm fuzzies in a really interesting way. Uh, yeah, it's kind of genius. Still mad about it, but all those things can be true at the same time, you know. So let's talk about the Sid opening scene, talk show, rain, wind. Thoughts about that whole moment?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that now we have a Sid cooking talk show moment, because
Yeah,
in the past we've had a Carmi, cooking show moment. And so I just thought that that was an interesting and notable decision. I also just found it fascinating though that, like, she's hosting this thing, and it's so chaotic, it's falling apart, and she is just continuing to smile through it and everything. And it ties back into that previous the previous episode where she shared that her fear is fear of failure. So relatable. I was like, yeah, girl, me too. And from that dream, though, and from that fear of failure, she then chooses to call Shapiro and say no and stick
yeah,
with Stinky House. And I just found that really interesting. And like, as a person who also suffers from fear of failure, uh, like the process that I have to go through
yeah,
to not succumb to that. So like in my head as I'm watching, I'm like, "Oh, Sid, let's talk about some things, shall we?"
yeah,
Like, let's talk about this. But I thought that that was a really, obviously, like, very well done montage, and a great way for us to better understand some of the things that Sid is processing through, and show us visually some of the anxieties that she is suffering through, and she might not
yeah,
even realize, because this is a dream sequence.
yeah.
But then it's just interesting to go from that, like, really really anxious dream, and then in the next sequence she chooses Stinky House, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. we have
Juxtaposition.
we have made some choices here.
Mm. That juxtaposition is notable as well. Yeah. It makes us question and think about like her motivations and intentions for making that choice. Even if it is the right choice for her, like where is the root of it coming from? And sometimes we do that as humans, you know, like we are choosing what we do think is genuinely best for us, but maybe the root comes from a place that is not actually for because of inspiration and excitement and whatnot. It's maybe a decision that was formed out of fear instead of out of vision. Uh, I also think it's fascinating, though, despite all of that, seeing Shapiro's response to her and how unclassy that was and ungracious it was. So I was like, okay, you might be making this decision out of fear, but you're diverting this path, being like partnered up with this man that cannot see you, cannot manage his own outburst of emotion and accusatory language towards you. Like, Shapiro. Ah, like we knew he was slimy, but I think he really showed a lot of his colors in that sequence, which I felt satisfied seeing. I'm like, yes, this is not the right choice. uh, but I think something that the bear does so well is depicting visually, auditorily, experientially what anxiety feels like for some people. They do an incredible job, especially with a lot of sequences with Carmi, sometimes at big gatherings, or feeling like sounds and voices are kind of encroaching and backing him into a corner. And I feel like this dreamlike sequence with Sid feels like such an accurate representation of things she's voiced with words, but now we can experience it. Like the literal wind whipping against her face, rain is falling from the sky. Everyone is like chaotically, just frenetically moving around her, and she's having to like somehow keep it all together and still slap that giant smile on her face. And that experience of trying to hold it together amidst chaos is so real. And just how unnerving that feeling is, and how challenging that is. So I loved just how we got to experience almost like a little bit of Sydney's mind. And I mean, the whole show has started with Carmi's bear coming out of the cage sequence on the bridge. This whole show started with a sequence like this. So it felt neat to have another kind of window into the psyche of one of our characters that we absolutely love and adore.
And I love that they achieve it in a different way than we've seen from Sydney earlier in the season. You know,
Oh,
in
yes.
Jesus, what was it? Episode 4 or so? Episode 3, episode 4, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
They all blur together after a while, and she just is word vomiting all of her thoughts and feelings,
Mm,
and finally able to like give voice to some of those things. But
yeah.
then here we are a few episodes later, and we see that those same issues are still haunting her. And so even if she thought that she had like dealt with them or like processed through everything, even if she thought that she had made a decision, you know, there's still something in her mind, heart, gut, something that is like, hey, this isn't right. And there's
Hmm.
something wrong here. And those anxieties having a voice, even if she isn't really conscious of them. So I
Mm,
love that we've had 2 episodes this season where we really get to see inside of her mind, and both of them are so different from each other.
yeah. Yeah. And are expressed so differently as well. Yeah, that's so good. It kind of we can almost feel her in the dreamlike sequence as she's also speaking those words, and like kind of another layer that's peeled back for Sid, that we get to know her, get to just know her a little bit more intimately than we have before. Because I don't think we've gotten such a long, dreamlike, fantastical, larger than life sequence with Sid, in the same way that we've gotten with this one. We've got lots with Carmi, but maybe a little less with Sid. So that was great. Yeah. Other big moments that have happened in this episode that we wanted to touch on, talk about.
Yeah, it's a very Luca forward episode. We get a lot of moments with our
Yes.
guy as he's with Marcus, as he's doing prep, as he's with Tina. So I love that he is further integrating into this crew, and he's able to, you know, be he just fits so well with these other characters. And
Yeah.
you know, moving at the speed of Marcus, moving at the speed of Tina. Like he's really able to meet these characters where they're at, and
Yeah.
have those like unique conversations with each of them that they need in that moment. And I loved that. And like Will Poulter is such a good actor too, so it's just
Yeah.
nice to see him just bringing all of his charisma to the screen here. And yeah, I'm curious to see, because as we've talked about, there's 2 episodes left in this season. Um, how is he going to play a maybe bigger
Yeah.
role in the finale, in this last, you know, service before the clock runs out, all of that. So they keep showing more and more and more of him, which I think is pretty notable in the show.
He seems to be the only person that's not like absolutely devolving in some way, and kind of maybe potentially being a source of calm, a source of rootedness for this team, as maybe emotions are going to run high very soon. His kind of calm, being a little bit of an outsider too, and not having like all that history and context with a lot of this, but enough to know the dynamics. will be really fascinating, really interesting. Uh, no, well, we mentioned Tina. Notable that I think Tina's feeling overwhelmed, and we've seen so many moments with her throughout the season that are smaller but always trickled in, and her spirits were higher in those earlier episodes of being like, okay, it's okay, like I'm gonna practice and I got this and it's gonna be great. And I think we're starting to see her spirits getting dashed a little bit, and even little details like her forgetting the spoons outside. I think they gave screen time to that little moment to showcase this character who is usually so on top of things, managing things well, is maybe so overwhelmed by or consumed by getting her pasta time down, or just, like the nearing of this ending parachute period, that there's these little things that maybe she's just needing help in. And I think that actress is doing such an incredible job with her face to communicating a little bit less of that vibrance and exuberance and brightness that was so present at the beginning of the episode. But there's a shift in her countenance that I felt this episode that was really notable. So I'm like, oh man, Tina's not doing well. We like, who's gonna see her and come in and really come alongside her? But notable because I think she's been so consistently in every episode in her journey. So um, I'm just curious where Tina's trajectory will go next.
I also love that we've seen Tina getting help and encouragement from a lot of the different members of the staff too,
Yeah,
because like at the beginning of this season, Jess was encouraging her and helping her. We've seen Carmi,
yeah,
Sydney, Marcus, now Luca. And so and even Sweeps, helping her and supporting her. And it's cool to see, even in these moments of difficulty for somebody like Tina, how she is able to glean wisdom and bounce ideas off of all of these different characters, because everyone on the team has some different perspective or something different to bring, and she is still eager to like learn and grow and get what she
mhm,
can from these other people that she's on this team with. So even though she was very down in this moment,
yeah,
I love that she was able to go to Luca and get some advice
yeah,
on how to do this. And even her face when he's just like, you've done what you can do, like
yeah,
that's it, like it is what it is. And I don't know, I felt that a ton when I'm like seeking perfection and I want something to be right, but then you reach this point where you're just like, it is what it is, like I can't make it any better than this. And that process of having to release that desire for perfection is a whole journey. So I'm
yeah.
curious to see if these last couple episodes of this season focuses on that with her, as she might have to let go of that goal and be okay with her 30 seconds more on her pasta dish. And can
Mm,
she be okay with that?
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And there's sometimes the comfort of hearing the words from somebody else voiced to you. You did enough. You did enough. It is what it is. Let it go. You tried so hard, and maybe it's never going to get there, and that's okay. Like I as a viewer was shocked to hear his response, honestly. I think we've seen this kitchen environment be so precise and exacting, and there's very little room for error. Every second counts, as we've seen. And when dishes are coming out delayed, like there is a bar to meet. It always feels like there's a bar to meet and a threshold to hit. And it was just kind of refreshing and shocking, honestly, to hear someone like Luca who understands that world. It doesn't come from like one of the other side characters. He's been steeped in this world, and for it to come from him to say, you did enough. Like, it may never get there, and that's okay. Like, you've done more than enough to try. I, I was shocked. I was like, really? Okay. Okay, Tina, listen to his words. There's a wisdom that I think Luca brings to this crew that can so easily echo chamber together to try and hit these high bars that they've set for themselves. And the aspirations and the hard work for those are so valuable. We've seen Tina absolutely commit herself to this. And having the wisdom to know when maybe you can't do it, it's okay. And to accept it is really hard. Like you mentioned, it takes time. But is so wise too, to know when to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that Lucas starts that whole conversation with like, man, I had to do this task for Carmi and it sucked and I sucked. And like how he
Yeah.
went home and he practiced and struggled and all of that. So I love that he is able to have that empathy and that rapport with these other characters because like he didn't know Tina before this, you know, like obviously like Marcus came and hang out in Copenhagen. They met like a lot of the other parts of the crew met Luca at like other points in the seasons, but like for him to have enough rapport and trust and like camaraderie with Tina to be able to like talk about your failures like that, I
Mm,
also loved that, you know, that he doesn't come in with like, I'm gonna solve the problem and I'm this great chef. He's like, nah, dude, I'm
yeah.
just like you. Like I have
Yeah.
been there so many times. Let me tell you about it. And I thought that
Mm,
was also really like wise and wonderful, especially because we've had sometimes when characters struggle to empathize with other people's challenges, but Luca just jumps right in and is immediately like, yes, I have been there.
hmm. You get Luca's like this like magical unicorn that just like floats in this kitchen and comes over to someone and gives them like just exactly what they need. You know, like we need Lucas in our life, in our spaces, in our environments to help bring that perspective that perhaps like these characters are so steeped in this and so close to this and they've been working so hard for this that it can feel all consuming. It can feel like the end of the world if you can't hit this time that's been set for you in this big endeavor that you've seen all of your most beloved people in your life give so much to. Like, of course, you feel the weight and pressure of wanting to do just as well and meet the bar because you want to fill your role, you know? And so Luca's just this breath of fresh air to give everyone, I think, a little bit of a healthy outside perspective that perhaps they all need at this point. So it is notable that he's kind of getting a lot more screen time and being teed up a lot more in these later episodes. So how's he going to factor into this end game? You know, by the end of the season will be interesting. Yeah. All
I
right.
think
Other, yeah,
another person we got to talk about is your guy. We got to talk about Richie.
I
He has
do.
some moments in this episode.
He has some great moments in this episode. One that I love that actually he doesn't shine in, just shines in, is him saying, "Did I share too much?" So real, so human. That almost fear after you have a really vulnerable conversation where you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I pour out too much of myself?" Like that was really scary afterwards, but it happens kind of after the fact. And I love how much she holds space for him. I love when she says honesty is sanity. It takes courage to be that open and real about these very real things. And I think that line, honesty is sanity, is so good because it's all we long for as humans. It's just to be real with each other, and having to be fake and hold it all together honestly does make us go insane, you know? So, and it's not healthy for us. And so I love how after she shares that, he actually shares even more and opens up even further. And so seeing the after effects of that safety she created for him was really neat. So I loved that interaction between them. The show also seems to be teeing up some little crushes, some little feels, some little sparks or some kind. Let me adjust your tie. Like, oops, okay, all right. So there's something there. It's fine. I mean, I think their bond and their connection is very real, and what the show will do with it, we will see. But uh, I think their chemistry and their rapport is so been so great to see between the two of them. Jess understands Richie in a way that I think a lot of other people on this team don't. So it's cool to see her be able to provide that place of safety for him that he really needs.
And I love that interaction about did I share too much, especially coming from Richie. You know, I feel like probably for most of his life, he's just been kind of a loud, loose cannon and like, you
Yeah.
know, not probably not filtering out a whole lot. And if he's like feeling something, he's probably saying it or yelling it. Like that's kind of the vibe of Richie. And And so I love that we're seeing this different side of him where
Yeah.
he isn't suppressing his emotions,
Yeah.
but he's trying to figure out the right way to handle those emotions in a way that's like professional and also like honoring of other people too. And
Yeah.
so I loved that because Richie is probably known for being a really honest person, but it only shows up in this big brash way. And now he's learning how you can be honest but in a subtler, quieter way. And you don't need to be loud and brash and all of these things. There's time and space for that, of course, but
Hmm.
there's other ways that you can be emotionally vulnerable with other people and it be okay. And I the other part of it that I think is interesting is he's always either worked at the beef or the bear. And so, like, work has always been intertwined with family. And now, work, I mean, there's still, these deep bonds. They would consider each other family, but it's a different, it's a different ball game here.
Yeah.
And so even learning to adjust to that of the way that you can act with your family is different than you act with your coworkers. And there's a time and place for both of those things.
Mm.
And where are the lines and trying to figure out where those boundary lines are. So I thought that was just such a great scene and kind of reveals so much about Richie and kind of what he's thinking about and the growth that he has made in maybe a revealing that in maybe a different way than we're seeing from some other characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of his loudness and brashness in the past, I think, is like these like warped reactions to what is a very real, vulnerable feeling of feeling unseen, feeling insecure, feeling unworthy, and it comes out in these ways that are big and bombastic and just taking up so much space. Demis is like a cry for wanting just even a little bit of acknowledgement, and he's learning to voice feelings in a way that with clarity and with this like quiet honesty that is really neat to see because it's so different from the Richard we get in like season 1, episode 1 of The Bear, who just is barreling through life. Uh, and he's able to identify those things in himself now and finding people that create places for him to be able to share a lot of that. It's cool to see the women really be able to do this well for him. I think Sugar's another person that gives a lot of that safe space for Richie that we've seen in the past. They've had some really great conversations that have felt similar to this one. So it's just neat to see the women kind of operate in some of their superpowers for in the unique ways that they can for some of the people that they care about in their orbits. So yeah, that's a great one. It's a great one. Any other big things we wanted to hit on before we give out some awards? Do we hit most of them?
Yeah, I think we hit most of the big ones because I feel
Yeah.
like the other things like the Carmi and Donna business, I think episode 9 is probably just going to be Carmi and Donna, and then episode 10 is going to be like service at the restaurant or like that final day, and everything with the business is going to come to a head in episode 10. So I feel like in the next 2 episodes of this show, we're going to talk a lot about Carmi and Donna, and then we're going to talk about, you know, the future of the bear, etc.
Yeah.
So I feel like we talked about earlier, this is just a stepping stone to get us there. And this is teeing up those big topics that will be covered in those later episodes.
Yep. Yep. And I know when we started this season, we were saying, we hope this is the last season of The Bear, like end it well. And based on where we're at right now, I am not feeling very confident that's going to happen. I feel like there's so many loose threads to tie up. There's so many new threads that have not been fully developed yet. So I'm like, I think commerce is probably winning in this case so far, based on the structure that we see. I haven't really actually followed so much of any of the news, so maybe there's announcements about it yet. But it's not looking like we're going to end anytime soon based on
Mm-hmm.
where we are in the season and how much runway we have left and the storylines that are active. I think we're getting more.
Yes, it has been confirmed that we will get a season 5 of The Bear.
Okay.
So our hopes and dreams have been dashed. And
Okay.
I'm trying to not feel some type of way about it because we haven't finished this season. So we'll see how these last 2 episodes tee up a season 5. But I'm also like, there's some logistical things here that I think season 5 is going to look very different than season 4, even without
Mm,
having seen the end of this season. So
yeah.
we will get to that once we finish this season. But
Yeah.
yeah, season 5 has been confirmed.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way. There's no way we're going to get the original vision. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. All right. Let's give
I
out some
really wanted it
awards.
though.
I know. I know. We had a vision. We had a vision,
We
but
did. We did.
they got to keep
Others
churning out
didn't
the
share it.
content.
Yeah.
They got to keep churning out the content. Okay. Let's give out some TV Honest awards, shall we? The first category is for Top Chef. What is your choice?
I want to give it to your guy for clarifying boundaries with Jess. I really loved that whole conversation that we just talked about of
Yeah.
the way that he asks about, the emotional sharing and all of that, and is that okay? But then also before he goes and adjusts her tie, he makes sure that that's okay. So I love that he's always checking with her and like, okay, help me understand where the boundaries are. I just loved that. I thought that was great, especially coming from Richie, for all the reasons that we just talked about.
Yep. So good. So good. I think I mentioned this earlier already, but Jess, for that, the way she handles that scene, uh, really graceful, really elegant. I think when people feel that, like, being emotionally naked, how you interact with them can either make them feel like, this was safe to do again, or it can make them feel like, I'm never going to do that ever again. That was horrifying, and shut down even further. And so I appreciate Jess for her just emotional maturity and her wisdom. It's really incredible to see over the course of the season. She's kind of like just banger after banger scenes of handling tough situations for some of our beloved characters with such wisdom. So shout out to Jess. She's amazing. I'm so glad she's such a pivotal part of this season. The next category is achievement and chaos. What is your choice for this one?
Fack practicing his walk.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I love that the whole team is just like perched on chairs. They're like, no, no, do it again. Do it again. Go back. Oh, it's so good. It's so
Mm-hmm.
good. They're just being silly. Uh, my choice for achievement and chaos is Ted Fack saying that the wine that Gary's pouring smells like Skittles.
Yep.
I drink a lot. I love me some wine, and I have not
Mm.
experienced Skittles in my wine. So I'm curious. I'm like, heck, let's pour it out. That sounds great. But
Would
somehow
you be
I'm confident he is wrong.
would you be open to wine that tastes like Skittles?
Yeah,
Or
I
is
love
that
Skittles. Is my favorite candy. So yes,
okay. Okay, so we need
yes,
to find you that vintage, get you some Skittles wine,
yeah,
uh, hook you up with that. Okay.
yeah. It was great. They're so fun. The facts. Spiciest line. What's your choice?
I want to give it to my guy
You
Computer.
love him.
I loved Computer. He's
You
so
do.
funny, and I loved him in this episode.
He's very coded.
Because he is asking the questions that I have been asking. It's like, yes, I feel seen by Computer. But when he asks Sugar, how long can you pay them? And he just asks it a few times, and it gets more spicy each time. And I was like, yes, thank you, Computer. This is excellent. I felt so validated. It's like, thank goodness somebody else is thinking about this other than me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he is relentless about it too. Like no sugarcoating of any kind, just straight to the point. It's so brash. It's so funny. It's his job. I'm also giving it to Computer after Sugar explains that Carmi has now have established a fixed menu. Computer goes, "Congratulations on making sense." and then proceeds to ask the next question.
Oh, it's so good.
Because she's so excited. She's like, and Carmi, he
Mm-hmm.
fixed the menu. So, like, we're going to be good. And he's just like, congratulations on making sense. And then pops the next question. Stone faced, nothing
Yes.
behind those eyes, cold blooded. So
Well,
good.
and then I also love that she mentions like the scallop dish and is like how great it is and everybody loves it. And he's just like, I don't like scallops. Okay, cool, bro. And Sugar doesn't know what to do with that.
She's just like, oh, okay, well, cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, looking ahead, what are you excited to see?
Yeah, I'm curious what are the players that are involved that we don't know are
Mm,
involved or like haven't clocked
shown
as
themselves.
involved, you know, like especially knowing now that we're going to have a season 5. So like how is the bear going to continue to run somehow? Is Ibra's investor somehow going to get
Mm,
involved or like that business guy?
yep.
So I'm just again, I'm stuck on the money thing. Like,
Yeah.
how are we going to make this profitable? How are you going to pay people? Because people have rent and lives and things. So I'm curious about that, and then I'm curious to see if the next episode is mostly or entirely Carmi and Donna. Um, that would be another interesting way to just like devote an entire episode to them. And I don't know, that's what it feels like is going to happen to me. We'll see if that is actually what happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, just how is this going to set up season 5?
Yeah.
Because I still I don't want a season 5.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how they're going to land this plane and also set up for a whole nother season. Yeah, I'm just okay, what are we doing? But we'll see. 2 episodes left.
I'm still mourning our vision, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we had a beautiful way this could end. That is so
Mhm.
the bear, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll get more content. Uh, I'm very curious to see what happens with Carmi next. He's been so great about taking these steps forward consistently to grow and to share, to be vulnerable, to voice his care for people. He tells Claire that he thinks she's wonderful, which is so sweet and his a huge step for him, you know, and he's participating, to use the words from him and Claire in the previous episode. And when you are on a trajectory of growth, going back to or seeing places that have been triggers for you can either be these catalysts for taking a leap forward and kind of moving forward even despite going back to some of those places, or sometimes you get dragged back into those same patterns in response to those triggers. And this feels like that moment for him. He's on this right path. He's taking those steps forward. Can he continue to move forward even being with Donna, being back at his childhood home, and I'm sure all of the memories that are going to be flooding there. It's almost like this period of testing and making that growth be stronger and more resilient in the progress that he's making within himself. So I'm nervous. I'm really nervous, but I think Carmi's been in the dumps for so long that I'm hopeful this is good for him. It's growth that is going to be tested and solidified as no, he can do this. He can go back and see some of those faces and places that have been so challenging for him in the past and has ushered into these patterns for him. He can break out of them while being in that environment. So I'm hopeful. I think we're long overdue for like a triumphant Carmi arc for a season, you know? So I think it's going to be tough, but I think we can get there. So uh, I'm hopeful to see what happens with him specifically. Um, there's just some things with like the convo between Shapiro and Carmi and like how that relates to Sid that I feel like is kind of unresolved, and the show's kind of tiptoeing around it. And sometimes I forget about it, but then occasionally I'm like, oh, we never really saw them talk about that. And we see Carmi and Sid have a conversation about some logistical, tactical things in the kitchen this episode, but I don't know if there's more emotional beats there, but I, there's something about this Shapiro situation that doesn't feel over yet at all. So I think that there's more story to tell there. And I'm not a fan of Shapiro, so I hope he is the villain in this story. So I think maybe those are my two big things. Oh, one other thing, Marcus. Feels like Marcus has some growth. Marcus has like things he's wrestling through right now. So I'm also just hopeful and curious about what they're going to do with Marcus's story. They're definitely like increasing the momentum of the moments with him, talking about it, sharing about it, some of the stuff with his father. So Marcus is also very much on my radar to see what they do next. This episode feels like a tee up for some moments with Marcus as well. So we'll see. All right. Well, this was our review and discussion of episode 8 of The Bear Season 4. You can find it available to stream on Hulu. Thank you for listening to today's episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. Everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spend time with us today as we continue our journey through The Bear Season 4. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review letting us know your thoughts about where this season might be going now that we have 2 episodes left. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tvnspod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. And quick reminder, new this season, we are officially on video now, so go check us out on YouTube at TV and Us Pod. All right, we'll be back next week for the penultimate episode of this season. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.